Everybody's been losing their shit trying to figure out where IMU came from due to recent events in the manga, for obvious reasons. But the real answer goes way deeper than the world government, like prehistory deep. We're talking about the devil fruit tree itself and how it actually created IMU. So stick around, because by the end of this, you'll see why IMU might just be the world's first anti-devil fruit. Just so you know, this one's gonna take some legwork, because to really explain where IMU came from, we gotta go way deeper than the surface level answers floating around in the ether. So stay for the ride, because it's all gonna connect by the end. Alright, let's set the table. The manga recently broke the internet the second IMU showed off that freaky mystery blob with attitude, and ever since, everyone's been stuck on the same question. What even is this thing? The internet consensus has been veering into parasite, body snatcher, straight up nightmare fuel that'll wake you up at 2 a.m. And honestly, that's kind of accurate. The way IMU appeared on top of Saturn's Zone Beast form doesn't look like any normal devil fruit power or hockey ability, not even rope action, sadly. So if IMU isn't a normal person, then what are they? And here's where it gets interesting. For years, fans have speculated that there is a tree at the center of everything, a tree that could very well be the devil fruit tree. You've probably heard bits and pieces of that theory floating around, because duh, but it's way bigger than most people realize. And one other major clue that you probably didn't expect that could connect to the devil fruit tree that created IMU. Bubbles. Yeah, bubbles. Back in the Egghead arc, Vegapunk flat out said devil fruits are the manifestation of people's dreams and desires. So if devil fruits are born from dreams, it's worth asking, what else in the story is tied to that same idea? Now here's the interesting part. You ever notice how Sabaody is the only place in One Piece where the trees literally breathe out bubbles? They're basically nature's built-in bubble factory. It's one of those throwaway details that clearly isn't a throwaway. But here's where it gets interesting. In Japanese storytelling, especially in comics, you know, the thing Oda writes and draws, bubbles have always carried this weirdly specific weight. They're shorthand for dreams. Fleeting, fragile, the kind of thing that slips through your fingers the second you try to hold on. And Oda doesn't just drop symbolism like that for decoration. It's like he's saying the world casually breathing ideas into existence, a living physical metaphor for something bigger. And here's another metaphor for you. You liking the video and subscribing to the channel. What does it symbolize? Hell if I know, but it keeps the channel alive. Vegapunk straight up told us devil fruits are born from people's dreams and desires. Regardless of whether he meant it figuratively or literally, it still stands that what Oda was saying through Vegapunk is that the theory itself was the blueprint. It's a mirror. The trees breathe out what people imagine, turning something intangible into a thing you can actually touch. That should remind you of the pawpaw fruit and the way Vegapunk explained its true nature to Kuma. It lets him turn the intangible into something tangible. That's the entire point of devil fruits, their human imagination given form. So if Sabaody trees are basically a small-scale version of that system, then the real question is, what's happening on a larger scale? There must be something, some kind of global mechanism or structure reflecting that same phenomena, maybe even the devil fruit tree itself. The bubbles might actually be a model for how the world itself works, turning thought into matter. Most dreams rise to take shape, but not all of them do. Some get trapped in the system, filtered out before they even surface. And that's where the pattern starts to show. The world of One Piece runs on filtration. Information, history, even people. The Void Century gets erased, scholars get silenced, the Sea Stone literally drains power from whatever devil fruit user touches it. Nothing escapes the filter clean. Systems in this world, governments, hierarchies, and even cultures itself catch dreams before they can rise. Every dream starts clean, freedom, curiosity, and connection. Then the system grabs it, twists it, turns it into a threat or a resource. The whole world runs on stolen dreams. Devil fruits made from wishes and weaponized. If the world filters people like that, why wouldn't the devil fruit tree do the same? That's the part nobody talks about, the waste. Filtration doesn't erase everything, it just hides what doesn't fit. The leftover emotions, the unfulfilled wills, the grief that never gets processed. That's residue. And residue doesn't just sit there, it builds pressure. And over centuries, that kind of psychic backlog could twist into something alive, something parasitic. If devil fruits are the world's dreams made real, then Imu might just be the byproduct, the nightmare left over when the system kept filtering the same kind of dream: freedom, hope, change, too long. That's when the idea of evil shifts. Imu isn't just some god-tier villain dropped into the story. They're the side effect of a world obsessed with control. Every crushed rebellion, the buried truth, and dream labeled dangerous adds to the buildup. It mutates into something that can think, move, and feed. Basically, human repression evolved, and now it's just walking around. And look, we've seen this pattern before. Amazon Lily's mushrooms, especially the body mushroom incident that straight up led to Luffy being violated, with the body mushroom obviously being metaphorical. Baron Omatsuru's flower buddy, Lily Carnation, nature that feeds on emotion and will until there's nothing left but hollow shells. Imu could be that same principle on a global scale, a parasite shaped by humanity's leftover fear. Now, yeah, Baron Omatsuri and the Secret Island is canon, nobody's pretending it is, but Oda was still involved in pre-production like he was with most of the early films, at least enough to sign off on core ideas. And the thing about Oda is he loves recycling. If something sticks with him, it'll crawl its way back into the main story eventually. Maybe not the plot, but the concept. We've seen it before, with Gil Bastar from Wanted shows up years later in Spirits. Ryuma jumps from monsters straight into Thriller Bark. Even devil fruit ideas get retooled, like the Nemu Nemu no Mi from the Ocean's Dream filler arc turned into Pudding's fruit, and the Ame Ame no Mi from the Dead End Adventure movie is basically Parasparrow's fruit. So when a movie built around a flower that feeds on grief shows up under Oda's supervision, you pay attention, because it could be the early sketch of a theme he clearly liked, an organism born from negative emotion disguised as salvation. Scale that idea up to the level of the world itself, and suddenly it's not a flower anymore. It's Imu, a being that doesn't spread hate for fun, but because it needs it to live. Which, by the way, it is fitting. Where's the first place we ever see Imu? The Room of Flowers. Just saying. And that's where the Kazenbo comes in, a flaming ghost-like entity created by Conjure with the Fude no Mi drawn for one purpose: to burn Onigashima to the ground. It was a metaphor that decided to get a body, the embodiment of the Kurozumi family's burning hatred toward those who wronged them. That's the key. If one clan's grudge could figuratively manifest into something like that, imagine what centuries of collective repression could create. Imu's not just the devil pulling the strings, they are the consequence made flesh. Everything the world repressed until it grew teeth. So if devil fruits are the byproduct of human hope, then Imu is the byproduct of human denial, the compacted remains of fear, guilt, and grief the world refused to face until it started thinking for itself. So when people call Imu a god, they're half right. Not because they created the world, but because the world created them. Gods in One Piece aren't born. They're made, sculpted from fear, worship, and human desperation. Takashi Kame from Jaya, Enel with how terrifying he is because of his devil fruit, and even Nika himself. Each one exists because people needed them to. Funny enough, all those examples come straight out of the Skypiea arc, including Nika, because of the mentions of the sun, rain, forest, and earth gods. So Imu's just the final step in that pattern, the shadow of every filtered truth and failed dream given shape. If this is how the world accidentally created Imu, it raises one question: how exactly would the devil fruit tree create Imu? So, believe it or not, it actually hasn't been stated in the manga that a devil fruit tree exists. Most fans just assume. It's one of those details that feels obvious until you stop and realize, shit, it's never been confirmed. But of course, then came the smile fruits, the artificial devil fruits that actually grow on trees. If the fake ones grow that way, then basically it confirms what's been implied since day one, that the real ones come from some kind of tree too. We learn about the reincarnation mechanics in that same Dressrosa arc, sure, but nothing beyond the basics until Vegapunk finally reframed it, and after 2 decades, all the pieces finally line up. You probably guessed it by now. Sunlight Tree Eve is the devil fruit tree itself. The name alone gives it away. Sunlight Tree Eve isn't subtle. Oda could have called this thing Steve, Chief Keef, whatever, but he went with Eve, as in the first woman from the Bible, the one tied to the act that gave humanity knowledge and cursed the world in the same breath. And it's not the only one. There's also Treasure Tree Adam, and pairing those names together isn't a coincidence. Adam and Eve are the foundation of the biblical creation myth. In the Bible, Eve was tempted by the devil offered forbidden knowledge, told she could become godlike if she reached for it, and in One Piece, Oda flips that. Humanity doesn't eat the fruit, they create it. The devil fruit tree isn't the source of sin, it's the byproduct of ambition. A world where people wanted more power, more freedom, more control, and the universe delivered. That's why it fits. Sunlight Tree Eve symbolizes creation, curiosity, and rebellion, the exact spark that defines devil fruits. Humanity reached beyond its limits, chasing godhood, and in doing so, they made their own devil. Once you understand the tree's duality, it starts to mirror the rest of the world. Eve's roots carry sunlight through the ocean, keeping fishmen alive. But that same network could be carrying more than light. Every wish, fear, and fragment of human will that enters the system gets absorbed too. The same roots that deliver life also circulate the residue of everything humanity's buried. You could totally see that same split playing out in Impel Down. It's a cross-section of how the One Piece world handles what it fears and rejects. Every floor is basically a speedrun on how corruption works. Magellan's poison nails that cycle perfectly. It's punishment disguised as justice, and endless purge that also feeds the machine. The person thrives on its own sickness. The prisoners, the guards, the beasts, even Magellan himself are trapped in a system that poisons everything it touches, but can't exist without the poison. And the deeper you go, the more oppression stacks on itself. The further you drop, the less it feels human. And guess what? The same principle applies to trees too. Just think about it, it'll make sense in a second. Whenever trees start to decay, they always start from the core, the heartwood. The core inner layer of a tree trunk rots first. The rest of the tree keeps growing, unaware it's already dead on the inside, kind of like everyone clocking into a 9 to 5 pretending it's fine. It's not. That's the same story Oda keeps hammering home. Nations, family trees, ideologies, they all keep their outer image together while everything inside falls apart. The world government still calls itself order, but it's just polished dookie. The problem didn't come from the outside, it started inside. Evil is the result of that failure, a malfunction that figured out it exists. So how does the Sunlight Tree actually make devil fruits? Every devil fruit represents a wish, the hopes and desires of humanity made real. But if these powers come from human will, then something in the world must have been collecting that will for centuries. That's where Sunlight Tree Eve comes in. What if Eve wasn't entirely natural? What if it was just a construct left behind by the ancient kingdom, an organic machine designed to channel light, and then later repurposed to do something far more dangerous? If the tree was absorbing more than sunlight, something closer to life energy, then we have to ask what that energy actually is. We need to understand what souls actually are in One Piece. I actually made a whole video about this, breaking down how the nature of souls ties directly to the truth behind Luffy's devil fruit. In that video, I explained how souls in One Piece aren't just abstract ideas. Oda showed them. Brook's spirit looks like a Hitodama, those floating fireballs from Japanese folklore. Or when characters are comically on the verge of death like Lao Ji, they're drawn as tiny burning lights, miniature suns. And that's where Haki comes in. Haki isn't just combat energy, it's the physical mirror of a person's willpower, which itself comes from their hearts and desires. In other words, Haki is dream energy, proof that imagination and conviction can shape reality. So if every soul is its own sun, then Sunlight Tree Eve isn't just channeling sunlight from above, it's channeling the light of life itself. The ancient kingdom could have discovered that connection and found a way to use Eve's natural properties to absorb that dream energy, Haki, through people. That discovery would have changed everything. Eve basically became a spiritual processor, recycling human will into new forms, and when the soul's light is pure, it creates a devil fruit. When it's dark or corrupted, it sinks deeper into the core, building towards something the world was never meant to host. If the Eve tree really was absorbing dream energy, then it's not too hard to imagine what the ancient kingdom might have used it for. That kind of energy would have been limitless, the purest renewable resource possible. They could have used it to power their technology. It would have been a civilization literally fueled by dreams. The same way Big Mom uses souls to animate Totland's infrastructure. But of course, here is where it gets dark, because it ties straight into the theme of slavery that's been there since Sabaody. Humans, fishmen, even giants, just everybody, all treated as commodities, because in this world, people themselves are the most valuable resource. Labor, lineage, life force, it's all currency. Sabaody made that impossible to ignore because think about it. The Sabaody archipelago made use of the bubbles from the mangrove trees for merchandise and marketing, symbolizing the exploitation of people's dreams. Meanwhile, you have a slave auction happening in the very same island, That's not a coincidence. Oda built that island as a microcosm of the world. Back then, people might have offered their dream energy or haki willingly, believing they were feeling progress, not realizing that they were feeding the roots of something darker. Over time, that offering symbolically became the heavenly tribute, and at the end, it's still the same loop, humanity powering the very machine that keeps it in chains. We could look at it another way. Maybe Sunlight Tree Eve isn't judging souls as good or bad, it's just filtering haki itself, because willpower isn't inherently moral, it's neutral. What makes it positive or negative is how it's used and why. When people act with empathy, courage, or love, their willpower becomes constructive. It fuels growth, creativity, and resilience, the kind of energy Eve could turn into devil fruits. But when willpower turns inward, driven by fear, ego, or the need to control, it warps and becomes obsession, repression, and domination. That's the same fire, just burning out of control. Perhaps that's why awakened users like Lucci, Kaku, and the Five Elders give off scars of dark flaming smoke, while Luffy's burns white instead. So maybe Eve's job isn't a past judgment, but the filter, separating a steady light of will from the unstable kind. The clean energy rises and becomes creation. All that dark junk is collected in the center of the tree, and it doesn't go away, it just keeps piling up. And over time, all that filtered energy just kept stacking and stacking. The tree kept making devil fruits from the good stuff, and the unstable chunk is just collecting at the core of the tree. That's when IMU formed. The world's emotional junk compacted into one will. It's the same principle we talked about earlier with the Kazenbo, a grudge so strong it grew legs. IMU's just the idea blown up on the global scale. If devil fruits are born from dreams, human imagination reaching for something better, then an anti-devil fruit would have to come from the same place, just inverted. Nightmares. Dreams create possibilities, nightmares create limits. One manifests what we wish for, the other what we fear. And that's IMU in a nutshell, the physical embodiment of humanity's darkest imagination. That's why their powers feel so alien and demonic. Dome Reversi, the Abyss, Possession, that devil-like form. They all read like fragments pulled straight out of a nightmare. And maybe that's the point. Think about what we've already seen. Dome Reversi drags people into the Abyss, a portal, and forces them to crawl back out into demons. And those weapons that IMU summons from the spellbook have to be pulled from somewhere. Some inner dimension that stores the world's collective fears. It's like the black material IMU's made of acts as an access point or like a key, a medium connecting reality to the realm of imagination. Only this one's flooded with nightmares. The same logic could also apply to Dolphers, except they reach into that same realm and draw from dreams instead. And if that sounds far-fetched, it really isn't, because Oda's been building towards this kind of ability for years. Look at how many Devil Fruits can already access pocket dimensions. You got the Mirror world from Brulee's fruit, you got the Door dimension from Pluto's fruit, and you got the Pocket fruit from Flamenco. And of course, the Yama no Mi, probably the closest thing to a direct precedent for IMU, because it creates a void that sucks matter, light, devil fruit powers, only to release them later, probably from some other dimension. So when IMU performs Dome Reversi or opens the Abyss, they might not be breaking the laws of reality at all. They're just accessing the same realm every devil fruit already taps into, the space where human thought becomes form. Because in the end, the parent force behind both dreams and nightmares is the same thing, imagination. And that's where the story really begins in the next theory video. I still wanna give me a song where I beat you. Can't trust everything that you saw when I cheat. Just know if I dish you, I make sure you know that I hit you like I'm on your fall ID. I'm aiming the album to fall off. It's pretty ironic, cause it ain't no fall off for me. Still in this bitch getting bigger. On the kid to come drop like a